National Guard or reserves. Okay? One of the things that we have to do from September 11, 2001 on up to now, we need to have some type of parity for those people who have been serving as quote-unquote part-time soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, Coast Guardsmen. We need to make sure that they have the right type of active duty equivalency so that they have the right type of retirement benefits and pay. Because right now there's a huge disparity between the time that they have spent on active duty and how they're recognized as opposed to someone that does spend a lot of time on active duty. Our National Guard and Reserve members have done yeoman's work on this 21st century battlefield. We need to recognize that. Next slide. Okay, along the same lines, this is one of the pieces of legislation that we have introduced. Remember, our first piece of legislation was a 10% budget cut for the Department of Defense that passed the House of Representatives 393-0. There's still a lot of people wondering how did that happen. But this is our second piece of legislation. It's called the Global Combat Zone Recognition Act. The thing that we must understand is that the combat zone is not just in Iraq. It is not just in Afghanistan. It is anywhere that a man and woman in our uniform is attacked, to include a DOD civilian. And if you think about what happened in Fort Hood, you think about what happened at a Little Rock recruiting station, you think about what happened in Frankfurt, Germany, at the airport where two of our airmen were gunned down and almost killed. You think about what could have happened at Fort Dix, New Jersey, and then also what could have happened at Quantico. We need to send a message that we are aware of the fact that where we sit right now is part of this battlefield. And if you don't think that's true, then you were not paying attention to the news that just happened this past Saturday, right here in South Florida, with the money that was funneled over to the Pakistan Taliban. Now let me tell you what is very concerning to me about that. It was 10 years ago that Muhammad Atta and 5 or 6 other co-conspirators were also in Broward County, in Miami-Dade County. They bought their tickets in Lauderdale by the Sea. They took their flight down in Opelika. And here we are 10 years later, and that threat is still there. We have to recognize that no matter where our men and women in uniform are, and those DOD civilians, if they are targeted for attack, they need to have the same type of recognition as those men and women that are over there in Iraq or Afghanistan, and their families need to be taken care of just as well. So that's the purpose of this piece of legislation. Next slide. Now the other thing, the Small Business Encouragement Act. If we're going to talk about national security, then I want to talk about economic security. The thing is this, we need to provide the incentives for small business owners to get out there and hire Americans. So if you're a small business owner in the previous fiscal year, if you have earned less than $20 million, and if you have less than 100 employees, we're talking about a $6,000 tax credit for every person that you hire off the unemployment rolls. Even better, if you live in a county that has double-digit unemployment, Palm Beach County, Broward County, then you get an additional $6,000 as well. We have got to incentivize, we have got to set the conditions for our small businesses to grow. And as you can see, that has bipartisan support. We have a lot of different chambers of commerce, to include the National Black Chamber of Commerce, to include the National Federation of Independent Businesses, that are supporting this piece of legislation. So hopefully we can get this thing to the House floor and get it voted on, and we can get it through to the Senate, because I'd like to see that take effect when we go into the new fiscal year on 1 October. Next slide. Gas prices. This is where we are, and this is an incredible slope. You can see back here, January 2009, $1.84. This is where we are here, the national average at $3.91. The station where I was at today, like I said, all the prices were just at or above $4. You know, there's a lot of talk about oil speculation. The thing is, if you want to reduce the impact of the oil speculators, reduce the uncertainty. You know, when people wake up and they see Tomahawk cruise missiles flying into Libya, that produces uncertainty. When people wake up and they see the turmoil that is happening in Egypt or all across the Middle East, that produces uncertainty. And that causes these people called the speculators to do what they do. But if we get to the point where we can produce those resources, we can consume those resources, we can even export those resources, then the prices will start to go down. This is an opportunity for us to control the destiny as far as energy resources in the United States of America. I'm not just talking about oil. I'm talking about natural gas. I'm talking about hydrogen. I'm talking about nuclear. I'm talking about coal. I'm talking about biofuels. I'm talking about wind. I'm talking about solar. I'm talking about looking at the Department of Energy and remaking the Department of Energy. We should have energy resource zones all across our regions, all across the United States of America, where we can focus on what type of energy resource we should be developing in those zones, and make sure that they are properly compliant with the environment, make sure that they are run safely. That's what we have to get to. It is time for a 21st century type of Manhattan Project when it comes to development of our energy resources. Or else, this will remain, as you can see, at a level which is unacceptable. And guess what? That affects our economy down here in Florida. Okay? If gas is high, people aren't going to get in their vehicles and they're not going to drive down here and spend money. And that in turn affects the small businesses that we have down there. So once again, we've got to set the conditions to improve the way of life. And the second, third order effects, you already see the price of groceries going up because all of those things get pushed to the consumer because of these truckers and our small businesses. They can't afford to have this gas. Next slide. Okay, you got to be absolutely proud about what the United States Navy SEAL, our Special Operations Forces, combined with the 160th Special Operation Aviation Regiment, the Nighthawks, were able to do. Ladies and gentlemen, this was a cross-border, behind enemy lines, zero illumination, flawless raid operation. UH-60 aircraft, what happened was a UH-60 aircraft comes in at high velocity. And in order for a UH-60 to slow itself down, it does what we call a fantail. And as it fantailed, of course, the tail boom struck the wall there in that compound. And as the pilots were trying to get control of that helicopter, then you had the reverse action of the prop wash that started to come back up, and it blacked out the engines so that it had about a 20 to 25-foot hard crash. But the great thing was that you had what's called a QRF, Quick Reaction Force, that was on station. They were able to bring in another aircraft, and the mission continued on. Now the key thing is we got to get that tail boom back for Pakistan. Pakistan is already talking about how they may allow China to look at that tail boom. There's a lot of classified information because that type of Black Hawk helicopter is a special helicopter, as I said, because it was used by the Night Stalkers. Now, this is the thing you have to understand. Where Osama bin Laden was residing is about 1,000 meters from their version of West Point. And the fact that he only had about 2 to 3 individuals that were there, quote-unquote, guarding him, there was no threat in his mind. There are 3 things. Either it's ignorance, it's incompetence, or it's complicity. Any of those 3 is bad. All 3 of them put together is extremely bad. Now, I will tell you, having spent 2.5 years in Afghanistan, the bad guys are coming out of Pakistan. And they will continue to come out of Pakistan. That's why they have their sanctuary. And one thing that a lot of people didn't recognize that happened, in the week leading up to us finding and killing Osama bin Laden, the president of Pakistan made a call over to Hamid Karzai, president of Afghanistan. And the purpose of that phone call was to try to convince him to not go into a long-term security arrangement with the United States of America, but instead join Pakistan and China. $3 billion, American taxpayer money, should not be going to Pakistan. I will continue to say. As well, we have a very serious situation that's happening in the Middle East because Fatah, the Palestinian Authority, has gone into a reconciliation pact with Hamas. Now, why is that important? For one simple reason. Hamas has in its charter the destruction of the state of Israel. The United States of America sends American taxpayer dollars to the Palestinian Authority, to Fatah. We've got to cut that off right now as well.